Okay, so this video is specifically going to be about kind of two similar topics, or topics that are effectively related in my experience because of this one particular campaign. It's going to be about guest characters and specifically easier to manage campaigns. So the what you're seeing on screen is the character that I'm playing in this particular campaign. It is bring that up so I can look at the other characters when I get to it. But this campaign, a friend of mine that runs the Erlmeyer campaign that I've talked about before and is a player in several other games. They are running a easy little early level game. It started at level one. Game for their cousins, two cousins and a friend of theirs. Three players. They all started at level one, and because I could usually make it on those Fridays, I eventually decided to join in as a guest character because who can resist, like, joining a game? But one of the main factors about this game is that it's much easier for the DM to run because it's simpler. There's not as much going on. The characters are much less powerful. There's a lot less prep that goes into it, and it's very specifically on like Friday evenings slash afternoons, which is like otherwise kind of a dead period for them. It's like they've been working slash doing schoolwork all week, so there needs to be a short amount of time where they're not doing any of that, and then usually getting back into some more schoolwork over the weekend. Cat, what is it? It's okay. Um, So it's kind of like that, like a weird, not like liminal time or use any word like that, but it's like a really specific, easy to run campaign. And that's after you've run like higher level stuff, going back and running like a level one campaign, depending on your intentions, can be a lot easier. And so far, the DM in this for this campaign, he's not has any qualms about killing players or killing characters, but he's also effectively brought them back very quickly as well. Cat, I know you're a cat. Um, and this is another funny aspect of this. All three of the characters rolled absolutely awful stats. The one player, their highest ability score, I think is a 15, and everything else is like below a 12. um, like the barbarian has 13 dex and like 13 constitution and 12 dexterity, 15 strength, low everything else. It's like that kind of thing. What is this cat doing? Why is she on my computer? Whatever. Um, so as you can see by the look of my character, I that didn't happen for me. I rolled pretty good. But that's the dice when you roll for stats. That's what happens. Where did that cat go? Oh, I'm gonna move this over here so she can maybe jump up. But so yeah, these characters are rather weak, and there's some other qualities that go along with that, but it's also if you've got weak characters, then you can more freely give them like feats and magic items and whatever. It's not really that big of an issue having characters that are too weak. You can always shore that up. But the main takeaway is that this campaign is a lot easier to run than this player than the DM is even finding like playing in some games is. There's just a lot less to it. It's just much easier for them. But I ended up joining with Vogue, this funny little kobold artificer. cat. Um, Obligatory cat. So I joined with this funny little kobold artificer, and the thing about guest characters versus like I'm gonna say guest or one-shot characters is that they usually are less developed than like a full campaign character. And that's just kind of how it goes. But also one other thing, like because, you're not going to why would you put all this work into a character that you're going to play like once or twice? Um but one of the other things about guest characters is they're usually a lot more boisterous. They're a lot as characters, they're usually a lot louder. And that's the thing. With this character, his main thing is he's a little kobold engineer. He made a little lightning engine, just an electric motor to pull a caravan basically, but it's also magic. And he talks really fast, he stutters. That's like his whole personality. He's a little reckless, you know. And after playing him for like I think I've played him for 3 sessions now, 3 or 4. He's kind of starting to get a little boring. Um, so it's either I have to retire him as a character because he's a guest character that's only intended to play for a little bit, or I can start to branch out and start to actually develop something with this character, which is would be fine. Um, because one of the other things I'm going to do is after this character does retire, I'm going to take over as DM for this little campaign and run a little three or four shot, essentially two to three shot. It shouldn't be that long. Hi, cat. Come on, it's okay. But I'm gonna run a little adventure so that the DM can like quote finally get to play in their own homebrew world, which is interesting. But um, cat, why do you keep doing this? But yeah, the point is, like, then after that, it's either I wouldn't join this campaign back in, or I wouldn't join back in with this campaign, or I would play a different character that I find more interesting. But something that I found out I tend to do is that, I create a character and I get really excited for them, and then I play them for a few sessions and they start to plateau. And that's the point where I really start to dig in and figure out more stuff about that character. Because then it becomes more about just like the basic starting traits and qualities that I gave them initially, and I can start to really figure out more nuances about them and who this character is. Um, and I'm getting like right at that point with Vogue. So it's either, again, retire him or figure out some more stuff. It's one or the other. It's could go either way, though. Part of me would love to play a new character, and that part of me also wants to play a much more edgy character because this Vogue is really kind of nice and he's kind of eclectic, and he's a little chaos kobold, like he's a little crazy. So I can kind of play into that, and that's something I don't normally do. I don't normally play that type of character. Though Henich is my lizard folk in Erlmeyer is a little bit chaotic-ish, but it's in harmless ways. Whereas Vogue will be like, "Oh, we have to get in here." He'll just like we have to get into this house. He'll just blow up the door, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different nuances there. And as you can see, I've reflavored a lot of stuff. Like this is just a mace called the Wrench of Wrenching. He's got a homebrew cantrip, which is just a firebolt that does lightning damage. Um, his arcane Eldritch Cannon is the Toady Cannon instead, and it's got a bunch of different names for that. And, this is kind of how you can reflavor all sorts of stuff. Like the mechanics are the mechanics, but most stuff can be reflavored however you want. But that's a whole separate topic. Um, yeah, I thought I had a little bit more to say about these subjects, but I guess that's kind of it. Um, some campaigns are just a lot easier to run than others, and a level 1, 2, or 3 campaign is much easier to run than a level 9 campaign. Um, but one other nice little factor is this does seem to be really affecting the DM's motivation and getting them more excited for, quote, the real campaign. Not that that's what it actually is, like the campaign they started, whereas that I'm also a player in, that, I've been waiting to come back. So, yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say on this subject. A rare at home in my office video.